Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a brand new Sunday edition of the Liz Observatory, or what shall we call it? Welcome to this morning's service. Show me some indication that you guys are here. Thank you. Okay, I see you. Morning, everyone. What we'll do this morning is we'll deal with the week that was. Might have been a very pleasant week, but we'll run through it all the same. And then we'll go to our main topic for the day. Timi Dibe, Emmanuel, Valentine, I see you guys. Good morning to you as well. So, is Sophia back in the country? Because I learned Sophia was in London, went to dine with the king. So, let's talk about the week that was. We start with Sophia in London. I'm talking about Bala Blue. He went to say hello to King Charles. So, those of you who are in London clapping for him, I thank you. Persons of the Revolution Now persuasion who took the time to organize protests in London, I applaud you. And I do well. Well done. You know, the Nigerian diaspora, you guys can sometimes be a major disappointment if the truth be told. Don't worry, we are already disappointments at home. But I imagine that the only reason you guys left was because you were aware of the insanity that rules our space. And then you went away. But how could you be in London and you couldn't even do the most basic of things that we couldn't do in Nigeria? Step out, join those who could carry placard, let your feelings be known. But hey, that's neither here nor there. We can thank Bulaba for our burgeoning debt. So now we are told we have borrowed money, and the money we have borrowed is going to bring British steel to Nigeria. And of course, the money will end up in Chagori's pocket. And of course, you know who else is a shareholder in Chagori's businesses. That is the result of your Osofia going to London. See, I sometimes try my best not to allow the many insanities that we have normalized in our space to get to me. I even try my best to treat the things they do in the public space. I try to use it, I call it a window so that you have a clearer understanding of the mindset of those who rule our country. And it is in that light that I want us to treat this subject of Tinubu going to London. Other countries travel to London, leaders of other countries, they travel to London or anywhere else in the world, especially African countries, and they seek advantageous concessions for their nationals. Tinubu went to London and he brought back an agreement to receive criminals and failed asylum seekers in Nigeria in exchange for exactly what? You just saved the Brits billions. Conservative estimate is 2 billion that they are spending annually on the problem they have on their hand. And then you went there and took it off their hand without any concession. You got a 750 million pounds loan that is meant to be paid. At the end of the day, the bulk of that money will never leave Britain. The remaining will end up in Chagori's pocket. And we know where that is going. But at the end of the day, we are clapping. Our president went to London. He was well received. Even Wagbada, he ate jollof rice in Buckingham Palace. How does that change the price of petrol in the market? Exactly what has that done for the Nigerian? How has that changed anything? Nigerians were dying in their droves, being killed by terrorists, most of whom are either enabled, tolerated, mollycoddled by this government. But he went off to London. People were being killed in Borno, massacres all over the place. But he went to London, state dinner, Barely any acknowledgement of the many people who are dying unsung in the country that he left behind. Rome burnt, but Nero was fiddling. The rulers of Nigeria are worse than Nero. Did you notice? Governors who had no business being there, ministers, even Akpabio the Naxin, all of them went off to the UK. They went to London to receive the president who left Nigeria that they left behind. This madness has to stop sometime. But beyond belly aching, there is this proverb that the Yorubas have. Roughly translated, it speaks to the relativity of pain. It says exactly how does the belly ache of the monkey becomes the concern of the baboon. That is the Nigerian situation. Those who rule Nigeria have no care for the afflictions of the Nigerians. They went like tourists. Or as someone just said, they are like kids who were taken to Disney World. They were busy opening their teeth up and down the place when they should be anointing their heads with ashes, weeping in the public sphere to talk of the evil that has befallen us as a people. But no, they are what Yorubas call alai niro. They went to London to gallivant and their country is burning. Burning. But then, who do you blame? Who is to be blamed for the affliction of the Nigerian, if not the Nigerian who tolerates every madness under the sun? Look, the week that was is the same as the week that was before. Nothing positive to report except the pains of the Nigerian people. If Umahi is not busy chasing Nancy around, he's chasing somebody off their land, or is threatening some journalists somewhere. In the midst of all of this, where is the actual governance and when does it even get done? Everybody is just busy feathering their own nests. That is the lot of the Nigerian on a day-to-day basis. But so that we can keep the issue in view, let me be clear. We will lament from now till kingdom come, and nothing will change until we resolve to change it. Because why would they be interested in changing anything when everything is working exactly as they would prefer that it works? Why? 2027 is already rigged before 2027 has arrived. I see people running up and down the place preparing for elections. I'm not going to work to depress voters' turnout. But let me be very clear. If you're serious and genuine about wanting change in Nigeria, just be clear that it's not going to come simply because you voted. Because between the judiciary, INEC, they've ensured that our votes will not count. The only way it counts is when you organize yourselves around common purpose and common interest, and you prepare yourself to defend those votes on the street. But the question is this: what are the politicians expecting of the people whom they have suppressed the way we have been suppressed? In 2027, is it going to be the same hollow rituals where you go to the poll, you vote, INEC announces whatever it cares, and then it tells you go to court. And you go to court and then what? Look, everything I see when I look at Nigeria this morning particularly, I don't know about tomorrow. I might wake up tomorrow and be in a better mood or see things through rose-tinted glasses. But I am seeing the ugliness of this country this morning and it's paining me. It's breaking my heart. I look at a country we claim we're building and I see how the commonwealth of the nation is being handed constantly to private individuals. Try this for size. Lagos Calabar Coastal Road, no bid, zero bid. in violation of every procurement laws on our books. $11 billion. The president has stakes in the companies owned by the Chagoris. His son sits on his board. Is that they are transparently corrupt? You can't even call this corruption anyway. It is impunity. The impunity is so manifest in your face and completely unbothered by public opinion, since your opinions do not inform your votes, and since persons who should be protesting are busy defending evil just because this person or that person is from their ethnicity or is a member of their religious order. This is madness. They're going to be renovating the port. $700 million. Chagori again. Oh, Stake Island, they're building a terminal. Chagori again. $1 billion. So it gets to a point where you begin to ask yourself, has this country, oh yeah, it's been sold long ago, but would this continue ad nauseum? At what point is enough going to be enough? My sole purpose is to destroy this system. The only thing that I will not embrace is violence. But I think it is at this point that we need to be telling ourselves some basic home truths. Our situation is not normal, and the solutions will not be normal. We are just simply going to have to get off our lazy asses and do something about the evils that have befallen us. I will address one issue just a little, just so that it will not seem like I haven't been seeing it, because I noticed that some very interesting characters have been attacking me simply for speaking the truth. I was asked a question on Obilo's show concerning my fiends, the orange beretted morons. And the next thing I knew, I abused no one. I said nothing negative. I simply gave my opinion. And that has been the basis for all kinds of attacks. It's nothing new. It started since 2022, 2023. After the election, it escalated and got worse. But I will not be deterred. I'm speaking to this now so that you would understand. I will not answer or respond to any further attack from these persons. They're not my enemies. We have had points of convergence, and I'm sure we'll still have points of convergences in future. But where we disagree, I'm not going to be afraid to speak my mind, regardless of whatever bullying tactics you guys think you can employ. It does nothing to me. I'm not bothered or deterred. So that's as far as that is concerned. It ends there. I'm not answering you guys again. If you like, take your head waka and not send on a papa. I know the answer on that again. All right. So this morning, it's almost 10 o'clock. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going, 10 o'clock now. Good morning again. For those of you who are just joining us, all I did was test my mic for the first 15 minutes. But this morning, as advertised, I want to speak to you on the subject, Nigeria, unyoked to purpose. That topic came about after a whole lot of soul searching and agonizing. I had to look through my catalog of works to be sure of what topic to use. I wasn't in any way, shape, or form confused about what I want to speak about, but I was searching to be sure that I hadn't used a particular topic. But this morning, let's just say we're talking to unyoked to purpose. This phrase came essentially from Miles Monroe. Miles Monroe, for those of you who knew him in his lifetime, was a preacher, think he was from Trinidad and Tobago or something, like one of the Caribbean islands. He died in a plane crash. But before he died, he left behind a whole lot of works. But one of the most profound things that I found that he spoke to was purpose. And he spoke during his lifetime to how a misunderstanding of the purpose of a thing or a life inevitably leads to the abuse of that thing. An abuse is an abnormal use of anything that is contrary to the purpose. It's not only physical. You can abnormally use your brain. There are multiple things that we use abnormally. If purpose is unknown, abuse becomes inevitable. So I looked at Nigeria and I looked at our objective realities. And I see that the Nigerian is constantly abused at every level. And it's not just abuse in terms of physical abuse, it's abuse in terms of waste. It's abuse in terms of ignorance of the worth of value. And whilst they're busy just doing trial and error, all kind of harmful outcomes result. Yoruba says that you do not become so aggrieved with your head that you use the cap on your ass. That would be an abuse of purpose. But when a country such as ours becomes unyoked to purpose, because what is the purpose of Nigeria? When it becomes unyoked to purpose, what you find are all kind of absurdities becoming normalized. You find all kind of madnesses becoming mainstream. You find things, you know, when they say a dog is beginning to bleat like a sheep, that is abuse. When something is not yoked to purpose, what ends up happening is that that thing will be abused. How has Nigeria been abused? Because it's not yoked to purpose. Let's look at it sectorally. Let's start with the judiciary. The judiciary is meant to provide justice and equity. When it is now undirected to the purpose of its creation, what do you find? It becomes a tool for the protection of the powerful, and it becomes a tool with which to persecute dissenters. I'll give you a case in point. In Nigeria, we have a legislation known as the cybercrime laws, a set of legislations. That cybercrime law has been used to target dissenting voices more than it has been used in the pursuit of any criminal. What has happened is that the Nigerian state will take a law that is intended for the protection of the citizens and harm it and turn it into a weapon of oppression. There's the Data Protection Act. Same thing. Let's look at the electoral reforms. Something is meant to energize the electoral system, get the people to become interested in who rules them. But you took it and it has become a tool for the perversion of democracy. Because you have a president who graduated from multiple schools before. Okay, let's start from first. He went to some school in Aroloya. School does not exist. He was said to have gone to government college, Ibadan. Nobody remembers him there. He survived that in 1999. Filled the second form. This time around, he was supposed to have gone to government college, Eric Moore. Only problem is he graduated from that school before it was founded. What was the solution? Your legislators, Senate, reps, they sat down and they wrote a legislation termed electoral bill. And in that bill, they removed forgery, certificate forgery, as a ground for disqualification or for even you can't even challenge the election result. So we have a situation where our laws are being bent, shaped to push personal agenda. If our country were to be yoked to purpose, would our systems have been available for these perversions? In the absence of purpose, abuse becomes inevitable. What about economic resources and the commonwealth, our common purse? Look, our common purse is meant to go towards the provision of infrastructure, education, defense, healthcare. In the absence of this, since they wouldn't use it for any of that, what did it become? Monies to be looted. No purpose, loot it. We build budgets. You have budgets. Not only have they padded, imagine that, budget padding. Uniquely Nigerian terminology. You pad the budget. Stealing. In a sane society, everybody responsible should be in prison. But no, the persons who should regulate the thieves are equally involved with the padding. It wouldn't surprise me if you found the EFCC budget padded and members of the EFCC committees in the House of Reps and Senate sharing part of the proceeds of that padding. You find the institutions that have nothing to do with each. Okay, for instance, you read somewhere that a college of agriculture somewhere in the north is executing a road project somewhere in Osun State. And everybody thinks that is normal. That is abuse that has happened in the absence of purpose. Complete abuse. You vote money for defense, but you steal the money. You share the money. You don't buy the equipment. Our soldiers are fighting terrorists imported into the country by the ruiners of this country who were carrying sophisticated arms with AK-47. You're fighting soldiers and you're fighting terrorists who are carrying rifles that have ranges of about 2 kilometers or more, and you are firing an AK-47 that can travel more than maybe like 500 meters. How are you supposed to fight? Meanwhile, these monies were voted for equipment to be purchased. You think it ended after Dasuki? If that were to be the case, how come our soldiers are being overrun everywhere in Nigeria? Everywhere. The disgrace, the governor of Katsina State was in London with Tinubu. When he comes back, he's going to go and sit down and negotiate with terrorists. And the National Security Advisor will come out and tell us that these are our brothers. Oh, no, he didn't say that, it's his brothers. But me and you, victims of the abuse that has arisen as a function of a disconnect from purpose, we sit down, we grin, we bear it, and we rarely bleat about it. We don't even complain any longer. Multiple persons have many reasons to be silent, even where they should be shouting. In a country unyoked to purpose, the police, who should be busy enforcing laws, have no laws to enforce because the laws have been rendered impotent since there are no purposes. And what happens? They begin to administer impunity. And you find that the police that is meant to serve and to protect are the ones who have become predators. Checkpoints everywhere, debt collection agency, law enforcement agencies have become debt collection agents. I had a run-in with EFCC some years ago. My case went all the way to the Court of Appeal. I never came to the public space to talk about it. I stood surety for somebody who was in their custody. I ended up with the court asking me to be remanded in prison until whenever the money the person was owing was to be paid. It took the Court of Appeal to free me. The EFCC, that should be pursuing corrupt politicians, became a debt collection agency, and it's still happening today. In the absence of purpose, abuse becomes inevitable. What do you want them to do? The courts, they were prosecuting Timpre Silva. The minute the grand patron of corruption in Nigeria, the patron saint of corrupt bastards in Nigeria, Buhari, immediately he canonized him, made him a minister. EFCC pulled back. Akpabio unko. There is hardly any person in public office today who has not at one point or the other been the subject of EFCC prosecution. But the minute, remember, Oshio Omoli told all of us, Oshio Omoli, he said, join us and your sins will be forgiven. So once you join the APC, your sins are forgiven, and the purpose of the EFCC is defeated. So since they must continue to find some work to do, they have to collect their salaries. Now, the next thing that will happen is that they are perverted and directed to other uses. If anything is unyoked to purpose, immediately abuse sets in. And that is what has happened with the EFCC and multiple prosecutorial agencies. In the absence of the work they are meant to be doing, they found other works to be done. And those works are almost always things that decreases the amount of rights citizens have. The citizens effectively became victims in the absence of purpose. This is what has happened to us. Checkpoints everywhere, waiting you carry. Policeman that should be engaged in crime detection. There is zero crime detection in Nigeria. The police does not catch you at the scene of the crime or beat a confession out of you. Nothing is happening. That is the country that we have built in the absence of purpose. Complete absence of purpose. The police is either busy chasing critical voices or collaborating with evil. How about the educational system? Of course, education is meant to help you with critical thinking, develop your capacity to think beyond your gnosis. Skill acquisition, that is the purpose of education. But come to Nigeria, education has become a tool of brainwashing. History is taught selectively. Lies are taught as history. Lecturers sells grades because it's about certification, not about knowing anything. All you have to do is provide a certificate. You don't even have to show that you have anything in your head. Just produce a certificate. So lecturers will routinely sell their grades. They will either collect money for grades or they will bend the student over for grades. So where is the purpose? You can't teach. Most of the teachers don't have anything in their heads to teach, and even the little they have is outdated. And then it becomes a game of oppression. Not just oppression, extortion. You extort sex, you extort money, Where is the skill being taught? Illiterates are teaching illiterates. When you have an educational system that deliberately teaches falsehood, I went to schools in the 70s and 80s, primary, secondary school, went to universities in the 90s. It took years before I realized that there is no ethnicity in Nigeria known as Hausa Fulani. And yet, our schools teach these lies. Nobody ever wants to talk about any part of our disgusting history because they would rather run away from it. And we have a Ministry of Education. There is meant to be a curriculum. We graduate engineers who cannot even build our roads. We import engineers from Lebanon, the Chagori. Have you seen all their CC? Have you seen all their, what's that their company called again? LCC. Everybody, every engineer of note is one Lebanese or the other. Everywhere you turn, you find all kinds of foreigners, even the ones who barely have enough English with which to communicate with you. Those are the ones we bring into our country. 200 million mumu, we can't even train ourselves to do the most basic of things. And I'm not talking about just your schools. What about the trades? Everywhere you turn these days, almost every artisan of note, even mechanics, they're coming from Francophone countries, from Ghana. We can't even train bricklayers, carpenters. Our carpenters cannot use modern tools because we are not yoked to purpose. I'll share something with you. If you would go into, I think it's Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, I believe. It says, a vision is for an appointment. I'm not talking about vision now. It's what vision produces that I want us to talk about. It says, write it down. Make it plain that those who read it may run with it. What are they running with? Vision. Vision constrains. If we have a country that is yoked to purpose, because you can't have purpose in the absence of vision. If you have a country that is yoked to purpose, if Nigeria were to be yoked to purpose, there is no reason under the sun why we shouldn't have at least 10 refineries in this country. We have no business selling crude. We should. Where is the value chain? Where is the entire petroleum value chain? Where is it? It's nowhere to be found. Dangote, as a refinery, is dependent on foreign crude in a country where we have crude in abundance. Once upon a time, I don't know where we are now, we were the 6th largest producer of crude in the entire world. But today, they are coughing in Iran and we are catching Qatar in Nigeria. The price of every petroleum product has shot through the roof unbelievably, and it's just starting because it's not looking like this war is ending anytime soon. But we in Nigeria that should be reaping the benefit of the wars in their own backyard, we are paying the price. I remember we talked about the Gulf windfall in the 90s. Was that in the 80s? No, 90s. The Gulf War was in 1990. So in the 90s, we were talking about the windfall. Where is the windfall to talk about now? In every part, we are paying through our noses, and we will pay more simply because we are not yoked to purpose. 60 years plus after independence, we are celebrating that Overton is coming to Nigeria to open a plant, even though these had been announced years before Bulaba came to power. They are announcing it as if it's something new to score cheap political points. Let's even give it to them that is new. Is it so difficult for us to add value to our raw material? And when was the last time anybody planned? Look, vision defines purpose. In the absence of vision, you can't find purpose. In the absence of purpose, perversion takes over. If you do not know the purpose of a gun, you use it to turn a bar. That is just the way it is. Power in the hand of a man without purpose, riches in the hands of a person without purpose, is no different from giving a loaded gun to an imbecilic person. Those kind of riches even exposes the poverty of the holder. If you have no purpose and you are giving money, the next thing that happens is that you visit all the drinking joints, all the smoking joints, all the ashewo houses in town. You buy the latest car in town. You buy more cars than you ever need because there is no purpose. But if you had purpose, they gave you $1 million, $1 billion actually. If you had purpose, if you give me $1 billion today, I'm probably broke by the next day because I have more than enough in my head that I would like to do with that kind of money that I can't do simply because I don't have the money. But if I had the money, it wouldn't go to waste. But you have Nigerians today who have so much money in the absence of purpose. What do you see? All kind of depravities have been normalized. All kind of depravities. You're living in a country, you're ruling a people who can. You have over 30 million children out of school, but you are wearing $1 million watch. What are you proving? That you are evil. Evil. That you can find any comfort in the choices you have made in the face of the evidence of depravity all around you is suggestive of the fact that you are evil, you are unyoked to purpose, and you are a wastrel. That is what happens. When resources are treated as windfalls, then sacred trust